Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Board YouTube channel, the NBA content division of the Hammer Betting Network. This is our weekly show that goes live every Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time to go through some weekly NBA takeaways and a little bit of betting as well with myself, Jacob, and my co-host, Kirk Evans. Kirk Evans, how have you been enjoying the NBA this week and the in-season tournament?
It's been good. It's a weird schedule with like one game one day or two games today, and then like 15 yesterday, or whatever. I think 13 yesterday, 13 tomorrow. So yeah, it's crazy having every single team in the league play one night, and then you have kind of the day to decompress, and then a couple big games tonight in Vegas. One starting pretty soon, actually.
Yeah, 2.5 hours or so until that game gets started. That is kind of disaster scheduling, in my opinion, on the NBA's part, especially if you are in the West Coast. It's going to be 2 p.m. when that one gets started.
Yeah.
But
Why did they do that?
there is a lot to like about the in-season tournament. A few things perhaps not to like that we can also discuss. We're going to be covering the in-season tournament today, going through previews for tonight's semifinals or this evening's semifinal and tonight's semifinal. We're going to be talking about the championship as well and who we think will get there. Then we're going to go into some teams. You want to talk about the Golden State Warriors, and we want to talk about the Dallas Mavericks, both teams for opposite reasons, before going into Kirk Evans to see what he has on his ticket for tonight. Okay, the in-season tournament as a whole. We'll get started here. Before we do that, everybody watching, make sure you have hit that like button to support the channel. Really makes a difference to help us end up on some more YouTube recommended pages, and subscribe for more content like this. We do this every Thursday, and we have the live betting show every morning on this channel at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So in-season tournaments, let's fire it up. We have the Milwaukee Bucks and the Indiana Pacers. This line, I mean, these lines are set so far in advance that you don't see much movement on game days, but this one, the spread is 5. The total has gotten absolutely blasted.
Skyrocketed. Yeah.
It's up to 257 from the opening. I don't know if it opened, but it's 254 yesterday. Any insight into perhaps why this has been just demolished and gone up to 257?
Yeah, well, one, the Pacers have kind of broken basketball with the way they play and how fast these games are being played at. But there's also definitely some synergy effects between Indiana and Milwaukee that lead to this total being higher. Specifically, the fact that Indiana doesn't play any help defense, and Milwaukee has Giannis. So they really struggle with Giannis, especially him getting downhill. They don't have anyone who can cover him, and he kind of gets to the rim at will. Last time they played, I think he put up like 50 and 15. That was a few weeks ago. This total is a little higher than my number. This is actually slightly higher than I would have it even for a regular season game. I'm not sure how much proof we have that in-season tournament games have been played dramatically slower. I also think it kind of comes down to the team. But if I had to take a side right now at this number, I'd play the under. But I think probably what I would do is wait and watch the first 6 minutes of the game, wait for the first commercial break, see what the pace is, what the vibe is, because if this is a true playoff game, this total isn't over 250. There's only been like 3 games in NBA history over 250. So playoffs kind of never sniffs this number. Clearly, people aren't anticipating exactly a playoff atmosphere, which I agree with, because I think most people kind of attribute playoffs to intensity, which I think is somewhat a factor, but I actually think scheme is the big thing that really brings totals down in the playoffs. Teams really scheme up, try taking away the best things that opponents' offense do. But yeah, this total is pretty crazy considering we just had the highest NBA total in league history at 253, like 2 weeks ago, Atlanta, Indiana, and now this is 257 in the in-season tournament. So it makes sense to me, but this is getting to the range of I wouldn't be shocked if we saw some under action come in.
Yeah, this is just very high. Do you think location as well is going to have any significance on this, not having a home team? Do you think that could play into the total at all?
Yeah, so it could. Where is this game being played? Is it in? I probably should have been.
I think it's in Vegas. Is it not in Vegas?
No, it's in Vegas. But what do we know? What stadium it is? Sorry, this isn't. Okay, this isn't great. We're recording here.
Yeah. It's in
because
Vegas. Okay, T-Mobile Arena. So
T-Mobile.
Knights Arena.
Okay. So it's not the UNLV one. So yeah, look, generally you think that playing in a stadium that neither team are comfortable with would also bring the total down slightly. Shooting lines could be different, sight lines could be a bit different. They don't have basketball in T-Mobile Arena typically, right? Like no team plays there. Obviously, there's no NBA team there. So, if you're in Vegas right now and you see that there's weird stuff happening behind the both baskets, if you could see like there's a lot of depth between the net and the basket, that's always interesting. Sight lines play a huge factor into totals. The fact that it's 5 o'clock or whatever 2:30 and the game's at 5, I would say that
2 p.m. local time.
2 p.m. local time. Yeah. So my point is the game starts in a few hours. So those edges probably would be factored into the line at this point. So I wouldn't imagine it's a huge deal. But yeah, if I was betting this game, which I'm probably not, I'm not on either of these games today, actually. I would lean under right now, but my advice would be wait till it's live and kind of see how they're playing. Because also, it wouldn't be shocking to see either of these teams, especially Indiana, how strange of a game plan they play typically, and how it typically doesn't work against Giannis. Their team, you could see 4 minutes into the game, they're doubling Giannis every time, even though they're a team that never doubles. If that's the case, you're going to want to treat this game differently than if Indiana is just saying, we're doing what we do, and we're going to fly up and down the court. The pace is going to be fast. Milwaukee likes to play real fast as well. They'd be pretty bad defensively. But I would probably wait for this game to be live. But if I had to take a side or a total here, I would take the under.
Okay, some good insight there to Indiana's game plan. Any thoughts on the side? Or do you think 5 is pretty accurate here?
I lean Indiana. I don't quite have Milwaukee as 5 points better on a neutral. I don't love how Milwaukee's played. I think they've been okay, but the market has kind of started to respect them a lot. No Crowder, no Connaughton. Their wing depth is really weak. I don't think they're going to play Green today. Beauchamp's not very good. Andre Jackson Jr. is not very good. They just don't really have much depth. But I would definitely play money line if I was playing. The total's 257. Just slightly less likely that those points end up mattering when the total's this crazy high.
Yeah.
So I would say play the variance. If you could find a nice off-market money line, better than let me check it out right now. Like if you can get like a plus 175 or better, it's not super available. I see Bovada's plus 180. Like that's a number.
You're in Ontario, you can get Pinnacle 175.
Yeah,
so.
Pinnacle 175. I don't mind it. I don't know if I would say it's plus EV, maybe like a percentage point. If you want action on the game, that's probably what I would do. But yeah, I think even if you could find like a nice alt like Indiana -5, -6, like it could be a big variance game with the highest total in NBA history. So yeah, I'd probably lean to play it that way. But it seems around fair to me. Like no crazy edge. I wasn't shocked at this line. I think it came out around 4.5. That's around where I made it. And then has shifted slightly to 5. Also, the seriousness of the game would favor Milwaukee slightly. They're just a bit of a better team. If teams are taking it really seriously, typically you'll go with the team that's better. That being said, I also think Indiana kind of wants to win it more. They seem to care more. They're kind of the in-season tournament team. So yeah, Indiana money line, that plus 275 at 10. If you want to have a side,
you like the Pacers a lot and you want to take it 175.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I don't hate the look of if you want to play the unders, parlaying both unders, I think is also a pretty good look. A strange correlation, not typically seen in NBA games, but we haven't ever seen an in-season tournament before. These are the first games in Vegas. So if there are any of those stadium factors, you would get it in both games. But even more importantly, you would get the we don't know how serious the teams are going to take these games and how schemed up they are. So if one game is dramatically serious, the intensity is really high, the pace goes low, definitely more likely that the second game is similar. So if you're taking the under in this one, I would say just parlay both of them.
Interesting. I like that insight. Especially, well, listen, if the Bucks and Pace are taking it seriously, you best believe LeBron and Co are taking it seriously as well.
Yeah.
So speaking of LeBron, let's go to that game, Pelicans and Lakers. This one opened up close to pick 'em. Lakers are now -2, mostly around is -2. There are some -1.5. There are some -2.5, which is why line shopping is important. Total for this one has gone up slightly in the past 24 hours or so. It was about 230.5. This morning it was 231.5. Now it's actually coming a bit back down to that 230.5 number. But any leans, any insight into this matchup you want to discuss?
Yeah, so I passed this total. It's a pretty fascinating number, honestly. If this was a regular season game, this would be an absolute hammer spot on the over. The total's around 5 points lower than what I would make it. That being said, I think if I had to play a side, I'd play the under. The Lakers played at an incredibly slow pace against Phoenix. And that's what the Lakers do in serious games. They completely dial it back. They played Memphis last year. They were one of the highest paced teams in the league last season. They played Memphis in the first round. You know, the total opened, I think, 230s in game one. Don't quote me on this. This is just off the top of my head. But by the end of the series, the totals were like under 220. The Lakers really dial it back. They play defensive basketball when they want to win. LeBron's surprisingly always been a pretty slow-paced player in his career, and that changed coming to the Lakers, especially with Ham. But I think at his core, he likes playing slow. He likes seeing the court, and I think the Lakers really want to win this game. So I would lean under. I considered playing it. It has actually gone away from me, so I'm kind of happy I haven't. I don't think I'm going to play it. Again, I'd probably play it live, but it's a bit of a tougher one to see just because of you're not really going to get that much insight really early. But I think the Lakers really dial it back and try just mucking up the game, playing good defense, and winning in the half court. That would be my guess as to what happens in the script. But again, this is really if you want to bet on this game where I would bet. I don't have $1 bet on either of these sides or total. So I don't really think anything is screaming out as plus EV.
Well, I personally have liked the unders on both. I'll unfortunately reveal I have bad numbers on both the unders here. I do have the earlier numbers. I thought after, well, the Celtics and Pacers game, the way that one went, I saw you tweeted about the steam on the over and that one's still losing. I was on the under in that game, so I was pleased to see that. So I thought that today, okay, 250, or yesterday, I thought 254.5 is just way too high for a game of this. Like everything's set up for the game to get 10 points, but 254 is just too high for that. But obviously, the market has disagreed with me. And it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Although, to be fair, the in-season tournament is an extremely small sample size of games, right? So, tough to say.
Yeah, it's interesting that the market is pricing both games a bit differently, which I actually think is makes sense. The market's sharp, but I think that is pretty sharp because well, yes, but you would think that there would be if one total was kind of down, both totals would be down. But I think the market's realized, I think it's mostly a Lakers-related thing. New Orleans also slowed it down a bit, but I think mostly Lakers for this game too. And yeah, I think if it's my best guess, I think Milwaukee and Indiana are probably going to just try flying. And these two teams, when they play each other, really, they just get shots up fast. So we'll see. 257 is a huge number, like – the under can win in a bunch of ways, but
I can't give you any analysis, like really why this game will go under because like everything would say there's going to be so many points, but like that is a lot of freaking points in a game that has higher variance with the stadium being different, that maybe the arena, being different, not accustomed to the perhaps playoff environment, perhaps both teams being more tenacious in this one. So you could call it square if you want, but my goodness, 257 is a lot of points. In chat, Eric says, I give up betting NBA unders. Don't give up. There's always good spots available. Don't give up. Just
I don't know about that. Yeah, the NBA unders. I was on every in-season tournament over. Each one moved like 6 points. I think I went 1 and 3.
Yeah, there's been a lot of weirdness with some getting good numbers on games and still not being able to cover. Perhaps maybe my new strat is getting bad numbers. Maybe those ones are going to start to cover more often. Thank you to everybody.
That is a good strategy.
Thank you to everybody joining us. Jay Cullen dropped. He was listening to Taylor Swift, had to stop because he wanted to tune in for the show. We appreciate that. Thank you to everybody joining in. Doing well.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but Taylor Swift's hard to beat. Hard to beat. I don't know if I'll say she's better than this program, but maybe you could have both on at the same time.
Dave Clark says, when did teams arrive in Vegas? Maybe they're out partying. I mean, that's not really gonna. That doesn't really factor in for me. I think it's certainly possible. I would say more so for the Eastern Conference side because the Bucks played. Did both these? Who played Monday? Because if the Bucks and Pacers played Monday, so the Pacers played Monday, half each. So the Pacers and Pelicans played Monday.
Yeah. If there was a team out partying, or my rankings of most likely partying teams, by far Pelicans won. Pelicans won. Yeah. There was literally a clip yesterday of Zion dying of laughter of what he's going to do in Vegas with $500,000. They're a clear one. Then, I don't know, Pacers are young, but they're taking it super seriously. Giannis and Dame, not really partiers. And then LeBron also. So really, I would say if you're looking for a party edge here, you want to take Pelicans team total under. They're the team that would be out partying. But that I can't tell you I know that. I don't have any boots on the ground in Vegas.
I'll put Pelicans power rank number 1. Pacers, big gap between 1 and 2 Pacers. Decent gap between 3 where the Lakers would be for me, and then the Bucks would be at 4. But I think, Zion alone could make up for a lot of that.
I think Ingram likes to party as well. They've got a really young, fun bench.
Yeah.
Maybe they had a good time.
I'm just trying to think. Could you imagine? I think that one of the greatest parties of all time is about to happen for championship day because that team is going to have time off at least a day after they win the in-season tournament. They are going to be in Vegas. If it's at T-Mobile Arena, they are on the Strip already. There might be an all-time party going on after the in-season tournament finale. If you're in Vegas, that is going to be a hell of a night, I assure you.
I totally agree. It's honestly I kind of regret not doing Vegas right now. I feel like the tickets aren't that expensive. You could go to 3 games all at the same spot. Like amazing matchups. You pretty much guaranteed it was going to be good matchups. Now you've really got a pretty good scenario with LeBron and Giannis playing. Indiana's the coolest team to watch in the league, in my opinion. New Orleans, awesome team as well. So, I might need to do it next year. And then, exactly. You get to go out in Vegas with whichever team wins.
Yeah, and T-Mobile is, again, right on the Strip. So you don't have to walk at all to get here, really, as well. So, interesting stuff for the in-season tournament. Let's go back to the NBA and the other teams involved who are out playing these regular season games. One team who has struggled a little bit in the regular season relative to perhaps perspective going to the season is the Golden State Warriors. 10-11 on the season. People citing perhaps the end of the Golden State Warriors dynasty. Steph Curry is still very, very good, but perhaps the team around him is faltering. Klay Thompson has taken a very large step back, it looks like, this season. Draymond Green looks like he's taken a step back this season. And the younger guys just still aren't really equipped to step up. Like Moses Moody has looked better this season, but still not quite the level they need. Kuminga, there still continues to be questions about his fit in Golden State. Maybe he could be better somewhere else. But Kirk Evans, your thought on the Golden State Warriors as a whole and perhaps where this team is heading?
Yeah, I think the Warriors are probably a bit better than public perception has them right now, but definitely not looking like a championship contender would be kind of where I put them. They're in the they should be a playoff team range to me, but it'll be very hard for them to make a run unless something serious changes. It's kind of what you laid out. It's not that complicated. Steph's amazing. Wiggins, it looks like 2 years ago was an anomaly, and he's not really much of a really good player. He's been pretty bad for a significant period of time now. His efficiency has fallen off. His free throws fallen off. His threes have fallen off. He's really just not a positive starter right now. Clay, like you said, he might just be done as a high level starter as well. He's always taken really bad shots, but now that he's not that good, those bad shots are really bad and they're really frustrating and they're offense killers. And then Draymond, I was looking at Draymond prepping this a little bit. They're 19% worse at defending the rim with Draymond on this year. That's Draymond's. I need to look a little deeper into his personal rim protection stats, but that is terrible. That's like
that's not good.
a number you don't really ever see. I couldn't believe it when I pulled it up. They've pretty consistently been better. He's an awesome rim protector normally because he's got a really long wingspan, and that's kind of what makes him so good. Is he's 6'7", but can play center because he can defend the rim, but also move on the perimeter. So yeah, if you're second, third, fourth, fifth most important players in Wiggins, Clay, Draymond, CP, not in that order, I'll take a dramatic step back. You're probably going to take a big step back as a team. They weren't even good last year either. And the anomaly more seems like they won that fourth championship, which was even at the time pretty unbelievable that they won it. And now looking back, it's just, oh my God, it's even more unbelievable. What a championship. But if the question is the dynasty done, like they're not winning a championship with this core again. That would be pretty shocking to me. So yeah, I think the dynasty's probably done.
I'll take this opportunity to slander Boston for losing that finals because that was like comfortably with the worst championship team since maybe the Dallas Mavericks that won the championship.
Yeah,
it took
totally agree.
Boston sold a lot of key games. Game 4 is one that sticks out. Boston up 2-1, and Steph went absolutely nuclear in the second half. But Boston just looked so dead from that point on in the series. They didn't win a game from that point on in this series. They're up 2-1 and ended up losing that series. They were the bottom seed. Were they the higher seed in that series? Was that game 4?
No, I think game 4 was at home. They were the away team.
Boston were the away team.
Sorry. Boston was home in game 4. They were the road team in the series, I believe. I'm pretty confident.
Because Golden State won in game 6 at TD Garden. Okay, so at home in game 4, every chance to go up 3-1, and they blew that game. And yeah, like the heavy hitters, Tatum and Brown looked very off in that series. Turnovers like insane. So that made the Warriors look really good. I wouldn't say that convinced them to like prolong this dynasty because I think like it just made sense to do that regardless because like what else are you going to do? It's very hard. Like Golden State have never been like a made markets or they have like when Wilt Chamberlain was there, they were maybe a bigger market. But since then, they haven't really done much. And growing up for me, they were a bit of a laughing stock in the league other than
for sure.
The one year they're the 8th seed and they beat the Mavericks in the first round. But at this point, do you think that they're more likely to take a big leap and try to make a big trade to go forward? Or do you think that the more likely outcome is that maybe end of the season, they start to fizzle things out?
Yeah, I don't really this team kind of missed the boat on that trade they needed to make. Like they had picks. Kuminga was was a high value player. Now shines kind of off. He's not really a blue chip prospect at all. Obviously, Wiseman, they completely mishandled that situation. Ended up getting nothing for
Detroit overpaid a little bit. They got something.
Yeah, sure, but he was a second overall pick, and now he's out of the league. Sorry, he's not out of the league. He played 7 minutes last night.
They missed on Wiseman, then won a championship with him on the team, so it wasn't that bad, I guess.
No, but I'm just saying if they wanted to prolong this run, they had the opportunity, and that opportunity is now gone. There's not really a path. Like Steph's still amazing, but he's gonna get worse. Like he's gonna eventually start falling off. Draymond looks like he's already, hitting that age curve. Clay hitting that age curve. CP, I don't really think they wanted CP that badly either way, but he's obviously heavily on the decline. And the thing is, when these players start declining, it's not like they can really fend that off. The decline kind of starts getting more and more and more rapid. So I think they just missed the boat. I think they'll probably fizzle out. They'll probably run it back next year with a similar team. With something will be a bit changed, but what's the path? Who are they trading for? Or what are they trading? Maybe Levine. Levine would be a great fit. Seems like no one really wants Levine that bad. We've talked about it on this program before. I think Levine's awesome. He'd be an incredible fit here. They would be pretty bad defensively, but the problem with Golden State is if you go through Golden State's history, they're an effective field goal and shooting team. That's what drives winning for them. And they've been other than the years where Steph was hurt and they were terrible, they've been 1 to 3 in 3-point shooting every year of, Clay, Steph. And now they're just not. I think they're 12th and they're 7th in EFG. So that's kind of what they need.
The rest of the league keeps getting better at threes as well.
Exactly. So it just isn't driving them. The shooting, they just don't have enough shooting. No one's good other than Steph from 3. So if they could get a start, they could. Steph is good enough that if they could pair him with another legitimate star, they could be really good. It's just hard to see what that path is. They don't really have anything that's super valuable. The one thing that is valuable is the fact that it looks like they're going to fall apart so they can trade, 2028, 2030 unprotected picks. And teams will look at that as super valuable because their guys are old.
Yeah, that'd be my point. And I agree with Jay Cullen here. I think Wiggins could be the salary they move for a deal. I think teams would be interested in Kuminga. I think teams would be interested in Moody and Podziemski as well. Looks like a guy who has been pretty interesting out the gate.
Solid, for value. Sure.
So those paired with potential pick, I think that they could land a star. And I kind of disagree. I think they will try to make a big trade this season and try to keep this thing going. Maybe not. I think they will this season, but maybe in the offseason as well.
Yeah. I don't disagree that they'll try, but they've also been a team that's really unwilling to do anything. Look at every player's come up. People are like, oh, Golden State makes sense. They just haven't really ever pulled the trigger. So we'll see. Obviously, this is definitely way more time of desperation than they've ever been. So it would make more sense now than ever, but I don't know.
You mentioned Levine. I think Bill Simmons brought this up. I also brought this up on my channel. I think Siakam would be an interesting piece for them to look at as well.
Yeah.
On an expiring contract, clear up some salary. But for this season, I think Siakam with Curry spacing would be very, very good for them and take a lot of scoring pressure off of Curry.
Yeah. No, Siakam would be an awesome fit. They're since Steph is such gravity forcing player, any player with them, you kind of imagine it's that would look really good. Any of these guys, Pascal would fit awesome with Steph. Yeah. Awesome. Laurie, I saw that as well. Laurie and Steph would be sick as well. So it's just, I just don't know if Golden State's looking at what they have right now and thinking we're one move away. We're Laurie Markkinen away. We're Pascal Siakam away. If it was, I guess Dame isn't a good example because he's such a similar player to Steph, but a Dame level player, then maybe they could convince themselves, but I just don't really see it. Pascal or Laurie. I guess Pascal and Laurie are young enough that they could say, okay, we can try it. And then, these guys could lead our next.
Well, Siakam's the contract's an issue for Siakam. That'd be the only pushback on that.
For sure. But you would think if they're trading for him, they're looking to sign him.
Yeah. They'd gauge that.
But I agree. I don't really think Laurie or Pascal are going to lead a future Golden State team, but maybe that's what they convince themselves of. But really, past Steph, what's this Golden State team even going to look like in 5 years? So maybe
those Golden State picks, if they are throwing up a 28, a 20, or a 29 first, holy shit. A lot of teams are going to be really, really interested in that because this team might be a disaster by that point, playing in the Steph Curry sunset tour at that
Yeah.
point. Like, I think they'll keep him around. Like, the Chase Center, they just opened up. Like, they want to keep asses in those seats. They want to keep churning out massive. Like, they make so much money off that stadium. So I think they're going to keep this team as long as they can. I don't see any reason they're going to fade out until they absolutely have no other choice.
Yeah.
All right.
They're a pretty obvious team for a trade. Yeah. I'm just not sure. Like, I just can't really see them getting there, being like, oh, Pascal. Like, it just isn't going to get them anywhere.
Yeah.
The league in the West is pretty wide open. So not impossible.
Okay. Sounds great. Let's go to the Mavericks here. The last thing we want to talk about before we go into perhaps some betting here, Dallas Mavericks. They're 12-8. We've talked about them already here, but we have a bigger sample size now. They're 20 games into the season. They're fourth in what is admittedly a very tight Western Conference. They're 4 games back of the Timberwolves. The 8-seed Pelicans are 5 games back of the Timberwolves. But nonetheless, I think that you and me were quite low, not super low, but lower on the Mavericks, and they've been impressive. Do you think that this team is a legitimate contender here? I will, for anybody listening audio form, Doncic last night had a 25-point triple-double at half, finished with 40 points, 11 assists, 10 rebounds in 32 minutes in a 50-point win over the Jazz. Jazz suck, by the way. Anyways, yeah, Mavericks, what's your thoughts?
Well, Jazz, no Laurie, no Clarkson, to be fair. But yeah, okay, I don't know if you saw Will Hardy's interview after the game, but he agreed with you. He said they were completely ass. I think he actually said it in those words too, or something similar. The Mavs are pretenders. Let's be real. We don't need to pretend. We don't need to pretend that the Mavs are actual contenders. They're not pretenders. I mean, they're not contenders. Like, they're fine. Luka's awesome. Kyrie's really good. But they start like Derek Jones Jr. They don't have a center rotation. They're being good shooting team, but they don't really. Grant Williams, good shooter. He's been shooting the shit out of the ball, but past that, they don't really have much. You know, they're good. I could see them. You know, they're 12-8. I would maybe, you know, give them a little more credit if they were like the Wolves, if they were 19-5 or something like that. But 12-8, they've been fine. They've overperformed a bit. They've had decent health. Luka's been really good. I will say, I know I'm normally very pessimistic on this show, which I am being right now. But if Luka's shooting is real, if he's actually a 40% shooter on like the hardest shot diet in the whole league, a 40% three-point shooter, that is a legitimate jump. That puts him in another tier of player. I know there's been a lot of talk online of how good Luka actually is, which is a pretty interesting question. But if he's a 40% three-point shooter off, you know, I think I was looking today, 80% of his jump or of his threes are off the dribble. A significant portion of those are step backs. So if he can maintain this shot, he is in a different class of player as a guy who's already pretty easily a top 10 player in the league. So that is kind of the thing I would look at the most with the Mavs. But like, look at this team. Past Luka and Kyrie, it's Derek Lively, Grant Williams, who I do love. I think he's an awesome player, but he doesn't really have any offensive responsibility. Derek Jones, Hardaway's been really good, but he's not really a super serious player. He's not much of a playoff player.
Yeah.
You know, they started Dante Exum last night. Prosper coming off the bench. He hasn't been playing much. Like, it's just not, you know, their Kleba after his hamstring has been significantly worse. I loved Kleba. He was an awesome player, but he's fallen off a bit. And then, like, Dwight Powell, that's their rotation. That's just not a contender rotation by any means.
That team, like, you read that team out, that team stinks.
Yeah, exactly.
My God, is Doncic good at basketball that this team is 12-8? Yeah, so I'm in agreement here. Pretenders, I would say, like, you don't want to play this team in the playoffs because, like, you got to deal with Doncic for 5, 6, 7 games. That is not fun at all. And if he's going to drop 40-point triple doubles, you may have some issue. The thing is, like, he can give you 30-point triple doubles throughout an entire playoff series. But yeah, the depth here is a problem. And perhaps the bigger problem is they just don't really have a lot of stuff that they can trade to improve on that.
Yeah.
What if, like, they use the picks on Kyrie. I'm looking at their draft picks here. They can trade their 2026 first round pick or they can trade their 2026 first round pick or their 2027 first round pick, but they cannot trade both of them because of the Stepien rules. Yeah, I don't, and not to mention the players they have, they're not exactly blue chip assets to go
Yeah,
anywhere.
exactly.
So
Like,
this is kind of what they got here, unless they just find a real good role player. This is what the Phoenix Suns were almost could have been as well, but Dallas did not send out those darts on those minimum players, and even like you questions the Suns' depth. They're like the Suns, no depth, but not as much top end talent as they have.
yeah, but also the Suns, like, yeah, exactly. The Suns, like, though, Eric Gordon.
Eric
Even
Gordon is
Nurkic
the
is being
biggest. If
pretty
they didn't have
bad.
Eric Gordon, it'd be a completely different team. The fact he signed
Yeah,
for like $6 million.
Yeah. But also the Suns have been better than Dallas and have gotten, 2 games out of Brad Beal. Like, the Suns also have 3 players, like, it's a lot easier when you have 3 players versus 2 players. Like,
that's what I mean.
How much better? Yeah, like, Luka is probably the best out of those 3, but it's not like that definitive. Kyrie's a significant step behind Booker and Durant, and then Beal hasn't even played. So the Suns, actually, I know this isn't the segment, but I think the Suns are really good. If Beal can figure out his back, they could be really good. The Denver quietly has some holes that Jokic is really covering right now, but anyone could, not anyone, because I'm saying Dallas is a pretender, but the West is really wide open. There are not very many like true great teams in the West by any means right now.
Yeah, makes sense completely. But all in all, pretenders on the Mavericks until proven otherwise. All right, let's finish off with some betting here. Gotta be honest, Kirk Evans hasn't been too great for you on the channel thus far. The previous man, you got unlucky last week. Plus 5.5 on the Clippers. They lose by 6. 12% CLV on that number. They lose by 6. Lose on the hook. Buddy Hield. You know what? This was a weird game. He had 3 rebounds in the first quarter, then nothing the rest of the game, then 2 rebounds in the clutch. I think this 5th rebound was 1 minute left for a non-hook. It's 5 on a 4.5, but it's too low to be a hook. But yeah, 2 plays that just barely lose. Tough luck so far. I need to comment on those.
Yeah, like you just pulled it up. What was it? 12.5% CLV on the Clippers game.
11.9. So yeah, 12%.
Or yeah, 12% CLV. Like, again, obviously you bet you want to win. If I get 12% CLV on bets, it's hard for me to really be. And then even Buddy Hield.
You got him at minus 110. He closed minus 140.
Closed minus 140. Like, I don't know how many viewers we have on this show, honestly, but I don't think it's us going and crushing these lines.
It's not enough. It hasn't been enough to steam for sure.
Yeah. So like,
with all due respect, we love our viewers.
Whatever I say, this bet, know that it's going to lose, and I apologize for it because any bet I utter in the public auto loses. But process-wise, if I'm giving out 2 bets and you can, maybe I give out this bet and by game time it's an arb and just arb out of it because it's going to lose.
It's a small sample. But, it's a small sample.
Yeah, no, for sure. Obviously, I say that all jokingly.
By the way, your Knicks future lost as well because they lost quarterfinals.
Yeah, Milwaukee shot 60% from 3 in that game. Also, I said
let's get it back today. Let's get it back.
I also had Knicks spread in that game as well. On top of my Knicks future, closed 2 points past the number, lost as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, closing line. If you have closing line on an NBA bet, it's going to lose. I'm sorry to tell you, it is going to lose. But that being said, let's put out another pick. I haven't done much betting today. To be fair, I've been mostly getting ready for tomorrow's slate. But the bet that I am going to give a prop is going to be Malik Beasley under 3.5 threes. Let me just make sure. Okay, yeah, this line moved in the time that this podcast has started.
Minus 125.
But okay, yeah. There's some decent numbers there. Okay, we can take minus 125. That's fine. It was minus. Let me check. I've got it right here. It was minus 108 as of 1:20 p.m. Eastern. So that's unfortunate. But yeah, minus 125 is totally good. This line's just really high, and that's also way off market. like I said earlier in the show, the Pacers don't play help defense. They let up by far the least catch and shoot threes in the league. That's where most of Malik Beasley's threes come from.
Yeah.
He's just not really being above this number, and now gets one of the harder 3-point shooting matchups in the league. It's a bit of a counterintuitive thing because everyone's line is so juiced up today because of this insane total. But it's just a weird thing that the Pacers let up by far the most points in the league. But even just raw value, not like as a percentage of points, the Pacers are letting up by far the least catch and shoot threes in the league. So this feels like a good spot to me. Minus 125 is totally fine. That's a good bet.
All right. So when that maybe steams, perhaps look towards an over on Malik Beasley threes a little bit later on to counter the Kirk Evans play. But no, the play makes sense, as you said, directly correlates to what you mentioned earlier with Giannis. Earlier today on Pick and Roll, we had a bet that included Giannis 30+ points and Hield 12+ points. So kind of a similar sort of thought process that they're not going to double. Giannis going to eat. And Eric in chat is asking what you think of Giannis over 33.5 at minus 115-ish. This one started at 31.5, has got played up, but you think 33.5 is still good to take?
Yeah, the over money makes a lot of sense. I generally wouldn't play a Giannis over points at 2 hours before game time. I think when I was looking earlier, that's a bit off market. So it's off market. I wouldn't mind.
Way off market. That's way off market. By the way, I'm just looking.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I'm seeing like a lot of 34s with like minus 110.
Yeah, smashed over at Caesars.
Pinnacles minus 156 on the 33.5. I mean, purely from a
line
standpoint, that's a good number.
So then, yeah, you should be good. Really, the only concern is if they come out with a hard double Giannis strategy, but it's just not really what they do. They don't double team the ball. I would be kind of surprised if, randomly in a 1-game elimination here, they go with a strategy they haven't ran ever. Last time they played him, they even played Tice off the bench to try covering Giannis, and they could not stop him. Giannis's minutes are going to be high. The only other concern, he did tweak his ankle last game. But Giannis is also pretty bionic, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. They're going to foul him a ton. So, yeah, if you can get an off-market Giannis over, the steam on the over makes perfect sense to me. They don't have anyone to cover him. Turner's kind of cooked. Neesmith is going to get a lot of run, but he's a bit too small to cover him. Toppin kind of can't move laterally enough. And they don't play help. And if you don't help on Giannis, he's going to score a lot. So, yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah, if you're playing NBA props as well, you feel like a number is too high, you can go for a SGP. You spoke about these on Circles Off. Pips, who does the morning show with me, is always going for SGPs, small SGPs that involve plays like this, including the one today. ESPN Bet, the new one coming out, the new sports book, not as new anymore, but I won't. There's certainly a flaw in their SGP design. And you can get some very valuable numbers on NBA props with alternate lines. So go ahead and take advantage of that. If you're in Ontario, the Score Bet uses the exact same SGP engine as ESPN Bet. So that's another one to consider as well to get maybe perhaps some better numbers than you could get on straight lines. But that's what we have for the show today. We appreciate everybody who has tuned in. And hopefully you enjoyed the content. We have the one pick for today. Hopefully we can cash that one in and get Kirk back on track with the numbers and the plays on this channel. We got a long season. It's a small sample size.
A lot of
time to get that one back. And certainly think we will. Hopefully it starts with Malik Beasley. If you guys did enjoy the show today, smash that like button. We really appreciate the support you give us in this channel. Subscribe as well, because even though me and Kirk are here, only on the Thursdays at 2:30. We have shows coming out every weekday morning for daily NBA betting with myself and Pips NBA. And so far this season, I think up 9 units on that show. So take advantage of the channel. And if you're listening to audio form, rate and review 5 stars. Me and Kirk will be back next week. I'll be back tomorrow morning. Hope to see you there.